Time now for Michigan's #1 outdoor radio show, Mike Avery's Outdoor Magazine. Outdoor Magazine is brought to you by J Sporting Goods, the Yider Insurance Group, Angler Quest Pontoons and Polarcraft Boats, The Forward Corporation, Primal Tree Stands, Shadow Hunter Blinds, Security Credit Union, Garber Chevrolet, and by Michigan Brand Meats. Now, here's Mike Avery.
Yes, indeed. This is the big guy, Mike Avery. I am here every week for 3 hours talking about the great outdoors, the history and tradition of the outdoor lifestyle here in the great state of Michigan, and occasionally beyond. We talk about hunting, fishing, or hunting, fishing, shooting, trapping, wildlife issues, conservation issues, even occasionally some wild game cooking. And I am so glad to have you along with us. If you weren't listening, there'd be no reason to do this show, and I don't know what I would do. But I'm glad you're along with us as we move on through this month of Rocktober, the best month of the year, in my opinion. Why, you might ask? Well, the hunting seasons now are in full swing. There's some great fall fishing. The colors across the state are starting to get absolutely beautiful. Maybe in your part of the state, they're at peak by now. And it's just a wonderful transition time of year. Although I will admit that opening day of the season last week was a little bit warm, wasn't it? It seemed weird to be in a tree stand when it was that warm. But I went. I mean, after all, it was the opening day of bow season, right? You've got to be in the field on the opening day of the season. At least I do. And I feel that same way about springtime turkey season. I always take the first hunt knowing that the weather conditions may not be the best, the birds might not be cooperative, but there's something about the thought of having a hunting season open that I participate in, which would be turkey, bear, or deer. Having a season open and me not being out there to take advantage of it, to enjoy the experience, just wouldn't seem right. So opening weekend, or opening day, I did climb up in a tree stand. In fact, my first time in a tree stand for quite a while now. As I think about it, I closed out the whitetail season last year hunting from a ground, one of those primal tree stands, Wraith 270 see-through ground blinds that I love so much. Turkey season was spent in a ground blind. Bear hunting in Ontario was in a ground blind. So this was the first time I had been up a tree in a while. I'm not a huge fan of most tree stands. If I'm going to go up a tree, it's going to be a ladder stand. As I get older and maybe not as nimble, I guess I never was quite like a ballerina, but I will go up a ladder stand, a good solid ladder stand. Absolutely. I have no desire to go up a tree stand that has screw-in steps or something like that. You know what they call those screw-in steps, by the way? Gut hooks. Think about that for a minute. They call them that for a reason, right? So I will take a ladder stand, and that first time up in a tree is an interesting situation because before I go out, I'm thinking, okay, what do I need to have with me? And it's kind of a good trial run to get ready for the rest of the season. Okay, what do I need? Well, I need a safety harness, right? So I've got my hunter safety system harness on. I know that stand has a lifeline hanging down from it. I would not go up a tree stand without some kind of a lifeline. And I was also rummaging around my hunting stuff thinking, okay, what else do I need? Well, even though that stand has a lifeline in it, what I like to do is take another what do we call it? A tether strap or a rope that I usually put above the lifeline. And so I found one. It was a rope. It was all set to go. I get up in the tree and I go to put that rope around the tree and I go, Avery, there's no Prusik knot on this and there's no carabiner on it. This doesn't do you any good. It was okay because I was tied into the lifeline. It was a little lower than what I would have liked, but it's interesting to go through this first time in the tree or first time back in the woods or on the water, in fact, after not being out there for a while. What did you remember? What did you forget? What do you need to tweak for your next time out there, for your next hunting expedition, your next fishing adventure? I was set up on kind of an oak flat, and there had been some acorns dropping in there. This is a piece of property we have access to, not too far from my house. It's actually a very, very nice piece of property. And there are deer there, obviously, or I wouldn't be hunting, right? Did not know what to expect, was cautiously optimistic. I'm thinking, okay, it's quite warm. It's going to have to be a pretty good buck for me to let an arrow go. I knew I wasn't going to shoot a doe that night. It was just warm enough. I didn't want to deal with the processing. I didn't want to deal with the meat, not till it gets a little bit colder. But if a nice buck walked by, if the right buck walked by, within distance, quartered away, and put his front leg forward to open up the shot, yeah, I might have taken it. Well, that didn't happen. What did happen is after sitting out there for a couple of hours, off to the south, off to the left, and it was dead calm. I mean, I could hear acorns dropping. That's how quiet it was. Beautiful night. Off to the left, about, 100 yards, sneaking through the bush, I hear crack, crunch. Well, that's one of two things where I hunt. It's either a squirrel or a deer. In this case, it was a deer. It was a nice, big doe, which got me rethinking my strategy. Boy, she's a beautiful doe. She's all by herself. There's no fawns with her. If she wanders by within range, I just might take the shot. She never did wander by within range. Watched her for probably a half hour, maybe even 45 minutes. She milled around, eating acorns, kind of wandered around behind me, and then disappeared. But it's always nice to see deer, even if sometimes the folks who are non-hunters don't understand this. You don't have to take an animal to have a valid, viable, exciting, wonderful hunting experience. But sometimes the opportunity presents itself and you do get to take an animal and it's just a bonus. But seeing deer for me is always a treat. I don't care how many deer I see. And here in Michigan, right, you can drive down the road and you can see deer just about anywhere. But every one to me is a treat. I don't care if it's a fawn, a doe, a year-and-a-half-old buck, or if you get the rare, special, wonderful opportunity to see a big buck. What a treat it is. As I was sitting in that tree, too, I thought, this is a spot I've hunted in the past where turkeys love to wander through here. Avery, you've got a fall turkey tag in your pocket. If a bird wanders by, let's do that. And then I got thinking, do I have that turkey tag with me? Pulled out my wallet. My other licenses were in there, but the turkey tag wasn't. Another lesson. Make sure you've got your licenses in your pocket before you go out. Now, you might have hopefully remembered to get your licenses either online or in person, but they don't do you any good unless they're with you. And in this case, thankfully, a bird didn't wander by because I didn't have my license. I got home that night, and I'm rummaging all through my stuff. Where is my turkey license? My fall turkey tag, that either sex fall Michigan turkey tag. I can't find it. I don't know where it is. So I went online. There is a way to get a replacement license, and I'm in the process of doing that right now. But thank goodness a bird didn't wander by, and I made a mistake thinking there was a tag, a license in my pocket, in my wallet, and there wasn't. I've always said that if you spend enough time in the outdoors, sooner or later, you are going to unintentionally break a game law. It's like driving. You can't drive to the grocery store or drive to work or drive to church without breaking a driving law, probably, right? You're going to sneak over the speed limit a couple miles an hour. You might not come to a complete stop. You might not put your blinker on. You don't go out there to intentionally break the law. It's like hunting and fishing. Hunters and anglers are great people. We don't go out to intentionally, most of us, to intentionally do something wrong. But if you spend enough time out there, sooner or later, it's going to happen. And in this case, I'm glad it didn't happen with me. Southern part of the state, the EHD outbreak continues to be big news in certain parts of our state. If you have an EHD outbreak on your farm, your property, your leased property, or whatever, it's a big deal. Despite what the DNR says about it, if it's on your property and you're finding dead deer, it's a big deal. Now, this is not as big of an outbreak, thank God, as the one we had, how many years ago has that been now? It can be devastating to a whitetail population. EHD is not like CWD. It's not like TB. It's not spread from animal to animal. It's spread by, a little tiny fly, a midge. Think no-see-em. If you get weather conditions just right where you get exposed mud flats, say you get a dry year or you get a lot of rain, then it dries out, you get these exposed mud flats, these midges breed in there, they bite the whitetails, and they can cause real problems. And we are seeing that in certain parts of the Lower Peninsula, southern Lower Peninsula. What else? I think the red-winged blackbirds are getting ready to leave my neck of the woods. I hear them out there schooled up, flocked up by the pond, just squawking like crazy. It reminds me of springtime, which makes me think they're getting ready to leave. The geese are all over the pond. They're getting ready to leave. The colors are beautiful. The hunting seasons are in full swing. The fishing season is here, and it's a wonderful time of year to live in the great state of Michigan. After the break, we're going to check in with a buddy of mine, Jeff Godi. He's out waterfowl hunting on Saginaw Bay today. That's a sport that I am not addicted to, but... I just got a text from Jeff. Okay. Hopefully Jeff will be with us, and then Dean Hall from the Michigan Sportsman Against Hunter as well. Pat's smiling at me right now. Yeah, Pat, you're smiling. I'm not. We'll find out after the break right here on Outdoor Magazine. You can hear the Outdoor Magazine show in Traverse City on WTCM. That's 580 AM. You can hear us in Battle Creek on WBCK 95.3 FM. And north of the bridge in Newberry, WNBY 1450 AM. This segment of Outdoor Magazine is brought to you by the Linwood Beach Marina and Campground. Linwood Beach can be your year-round Saginaw Bay fishing destination and your Mid-Michigan Tracker and Angler Quest headquarters. For more info, check them out online at linwoodbeachmarina.com. That's linwoodbeachmarina.com. My Angler Quest is at Linwood Beach right now. The guys are getting her ready. They're putting her to bed for the winter. If you are looking for storage or if you are looking to get your boat winterized, I highly recommend the folks at Linwood Beach Marina, linwoodbeachmarina.com. Now, aside from being a great destination or a great jumping off spot for your fishing adventures on Saginaw Bay, let's not forget about your hunting adventures as well. In fact, Captain Jeff Godi, you know Jeff, the Michigan Experience, michiganexperience.com. He's a very well-known Saginaw Bay walleye captain, but he's also a waterfowl guide, and he's hunting right now. Well, I'm not going to ask him where he is, but he often bases himself out of Linwood Beach Marina. He's on the water now, though. Cap, welcome back. How you doing?
Mike, hey, good to talk to you today. Sorry, I had trouble getting my timer, and my cookies were done, and I was having a heck of a time trying to figure out how to turn off my timer while I was on the phone.
Your cookies? I thought you were hunting.
We are. We got picked up a Camp Chef oven from the guys at Frank's, and that's been a game changer out here. We make turnovers and cookies and hot breakfast sandwiches.
Is that what that picture was you sent me, turnovers?
Yeah, those were raspberry turnovers.
Yeah, you guys are you're really roughing it out there, aren't you, Jeff?
Well, today we are. I need a Angler Quest canopy over top of this 24-foot boat. I'd be all set.
What's the weather like out there today? Now, I realize by the time folks hear this show, it's going to be different, but what are you dealing with out there on Saginaw Bay right now? We got
a little northeast wind, and it's been raining pretty steady here for the last hour and a half. Not a downpour, luckily, but just steady rain. I'm hoping once this rain goes through, these birds will move around a little more. But I got Scott from the Marina and his son, and good buddy of his, and my buddy Kyle from Frank's, and we're just waiting for the flight. We've got a couple bluebills today. We had a nice flock come in, and the guys got 3 of them. So,
well, you got a good crew out there. Jeff, not being a waterfowl hunter, I thought that the worse the weather, the better the hunting conditions. But it doesn't sound like that's the case this morning.
Yeah, I mean, my experience on the bay here out in the open water, a rainy day is just kind of weird. Cornfield, the management areas and stuff like that, seems like the rain really gets them going. But my experience out here, I like overcast, I like wind. But just a light rain or a steady rain just seems to turn them off a little bit.
Well, you guys are out there having a good time. You've got a wonderful setup. You make it as easy as possible on your clients. But I have to admit, I think you guys who hunt the big water for waterfowl are hardcore.
Pay attention to your weather and make good decisions, and But there are some times where you take her on the chin and you wonder what the heck you're doing.
How is the hunting? How has the duck hunting been on Saginaw Bay the last few years? I mean, that's known as a Michigan waterfowl hotspot. That and Lake St. Clair, Point Mouillet, down around there. But Saginaw Bay, what's it been like? It's
been good, and for folks that can kind of shift gears. You might start out with some shallow water birds. We usually get redheads down kind of early in the season, and those are a fairly, as far as the big water, a fairly shallow water bird. Bluebills near shore, redhead, stuff like that. Then we've been heading out deeper, chasing the old squaw, or the long-tailed duck as they call it now. So we kind of bounce around, try to find birds and stay on them and move around. Mallards in the marshes, your puddle ducks, teal, stuff like that early on. Shot a wood duck out here.
What's a wood duck doing out there?
Well, we were hunting the marsh area, so we weren't way out. But I've only shot 25 years of doing this out here. I've only shot just a handful of wood ducks. But we're not in there. We're typically probably a mile off, the shoreline proper and little marsh islands and stuff.
You said old squaw, too. I thought, and again, I'm no duck hunter, but I thought old squaw at least used to be kind of rare and a real trophy.
Yeah, still a trophy for some. It's a neat-looking bird, that's for sure. Those drakes with the long tail, and they're just pretty duck. But there are a lot of them, and I think people just found them, on both sides of the state, the big water. They're getting more popular as far as guys chasing them around.
I'm not going to ask you where you're at, but I am curious how far offshore and what's your water depth right now, Jeff?
Well, our depths, we lost water, so I've been in the water a couple times already, and I haven't waded in probably the last 2 years. So, and I think we're maybe a mile or so offshore today. I could wade here if the dog got tangled up, and we're running these what they call mother lines or long lines. So if the dog got tangled up, I'd be able to get out and get after him, so without going over my head or anything. And I think I can probably comfortably wade, but we didn't do it today. The northeast wind brought the water up a little bit.
That picture of that beautiful lab you sent me, that looks like a great hunting partner.
He is. So made 2 swims. We had 3 ducks, made 2 swims, grabbed one, and then went back and got 2 in one mouthful. So
wow,
he's trying to conserve his energy, I guess, for the rest of the hunt.
I swear those dogs are smarter than we are sometimes.
I know they are.
And that's part of the appeal of waterfowl hunting for folks who use dogs too, right? I mean, upland bird hunters deal with this, houndsmen deal with it, waterfowl hunters. That relationship with the dog is pretty special.
Yeah, my customers get a kick out of watching the dog work. When things go well, you're proud of them and you're excited, and things go wrong, you're embarrassed. But for the most. And he's, the ones I've had have been a really good tool, as far as, you're still hunting, if you got chasing with the boat and this and that, you kind of lose hunting time. And, when we get the boat moving, have the guys unload their guns. And so, nice to have a good working dog that gets the job done. just makes you more efficient.
One of the things I do like about waterfowl hunting is the fact that it's a social sport. I mean, you can sit out there, you can joke around, you can eat, you can smoke cigars, you can talk. It's not like you're deer hunting where you got to be so quiet and so stealthy. That is kind of an interesting aspect, isn't it?
Yeah, that's the appeal for a lot of people. You know, it's a lot of the hunters. I had my wife and my youngest daughter in the blind on Saturday. They came out, my father and a nephew, and we had a good time, and the just the chatting and the banter and all that stuff. Yeah, that's why I do it. That's why I have a tough time deer hunting.
You're too social. That's what makes you a great charter captain, though, is your ability to get along with people and just love to interact.
Yeah, I love it. I just love being out here. I love sharing it with people, and I think I found my niche.
Well, I think you have too, and the name of your company, the name of the website, the Michigan Experience, MichiganExperience.com, that says a lot about what you're all about. Is you want to share this experience with other people.
Yeah, we stumbled on that name. A gal I worked with years ago kind of threw something out, put it together, and that's what we try to do. And I let folks participate. Whether it's the charter boat, helping set lines, netting their own fish, or out here helping set decoys. It just makes them, it's their day, and it just makes them more a part of the trip.
So I want to make sure I understand your setup here. Are you motoring out to a blind that's already set up that you're hunting out of, or are you hunting out of the boat that you leave the dock with?
Yeah. So we used to do the blind thing, but now last couple of years when the water came up, it was difficult to hunt that blind in the open water. The waves were bigger because of the deeper water, and it was tough. So we picked up a 24-foot Sea Arc, big Mod V, got a 90 tiller, and we've got 5 of us sitting along this inside this boat. It works out really well.
Decoys, what's your setup?
Primarily redheads, because that is my primary duck out here, and we've got some bluebills and a few mallards, a couple ringneck decoys out there. Dennis, how many did you count? 84, he said today. So I've got 5 long lines. We've got 84, and we've got a couple of 3 goose decoys out just in case.
Now, see, that to me that seems like a lot.
Yeah, these big water birds, your redheads, bluebills, stuff like that, they tend to flock up or raft up, as a lot of people say. So. That's the appeal. They're not real vocal birds, the reds and the bluebills. So, it's a numbers game. They usually, when they see your stuff, they're coming or not. You don't have to do much calling for them. Mallards, I think a lot of people overcall on them. Many times you're just letting it happen, or just trying to do just enough to change their mind and let them come on in.
Isn't that the case with everything? I don't care if you're waterfowl hunting, turkey hunting, elk hunting, or whatever. It's so much fun to call that we have a tendency to overcall and maybe turn off the critters that we're trying to bring in.
I would agree. Yeah, I would agree.
So is the setup of these decoys, are they set up in some kind of a pattern, or is it just random, however the wind takes them?
Well, no, I've got, I think my weights or my lines are maybe 120 feet long. And I've got weights on both ends, and then, 17 decoys in the middle or so, 15, 17, spaced out, 4, 5, 6 feet. So, and, we typically will drop the first weight out of the boat, and just the wind will carry us downwind, and we feed them out as we're going. We've got garbage cans that they go into, and then, drop the end weight downwind, motor back up near the upwind side, and drop another one, and just, we make a little opening. One of my customers tagged it years ago as the highway of death, and that's kind of stuck. So these birds tend to try to find the middle, and the group of bluebills that came in today did exactly what they were supposed to.
We're talking with Captain Jeff Godi of the Michigan Experience, the MichiganExperience.com. He's a well-known Saginaw Bay walleye charter captain, but also a waterfowl guide. He's on Saginaw Bay as we are talking right now, but we've got to take a break. When we come back, we will talk more with Captain Jeff, maybe ask him to demonstrate some calls and talk about whatever else is on his mind. This whole idea of big waterfowl hunting is a topic. It's a passion. It's a lifestyle that many hunters are absolutely addicted to. There's no casual waterfowl hunters. You're either in or you're not. More after the break right here on Outdoor Magazine. You can hear the Outdoor Magazine show in Alpena on WZTK. That's 105.7 FM. You can hear us in Caro on WKYO 1360 AM and WIDL 92.1 FM. This segment of Outdoor Magazine brought to you by Boning Archery. Michigan-based Boning has been a leader in the archery industry since 1946. And that means this is their 75th anniversary, 75 years of making innovative, quality products for target archers and bow hunters. I will just about bet as you head to the woods, the tree stands, the field, the ground blind this fall with bow in hand, you have some kind of Boning product with you. Check them out online at boning.com. That's BOHNING, boning.com. Talking now with Captain Jeff Godi of the Michigan Experience, themichiganexperience.com. He's out on Saginaw Bay chasing waterfowl, ducks right now. Also a well-known summertime walleye captain. Jeff, how was your summer season out there, by the way?
Well, we had a slow start. The spring was tough. I think for a number of us, clear water was a little setback. We didn't have much rain, and we didn't have much runoff, so Saginaw Bay was as clean as I've ever seen it the first part of our season, like April, May. Then we got a few northeast, got some rain, water got dirty, and at least for me, it was easier to catch fish when that water had to stay into it.
Oh, I tell you what, for a skinny water guy like me, that clear water was just terrible.
It was, yeah. Yeah, I remember us talking a few times, and there was some head scratching going on, but like I said, things, the bay needs to be a little dirty. That's what it's known for. And when it got back to normal, definitely there was more fish being caught. Yep. You mentioned before the break about calling, that maybe it's overrated, maybe people call too much, but I would be curious to hear what a duck call, for people who haven't heard it, what it sounds like. You got one around your neck right now? Yeah, I dig it out here. Everything's wet, but yeah, it tells you how much we've been using it today. So, I'll give you just I'll hit a duck call and hit a goose call for you here quick, okay?
Yeah.
Oop, are you still there? I think I lost you.
No, I'm here. Go ahead.
Oh, all right, there we go. Hang on. So that hopefully people recognize that as a duck call. It's a goose call. So, just a little sample.
No,
there.
and I appreciate that. Geese will respond to a call usually better than ducks, maybe?
Yeah, I think I just call the geese a lot more than I do the ducks. Just because of the types of ducks I'm usually hunting out here, mostly diving ducks, redheads, bluebills, buffleheads, stuff like that. And again, they're not really vocal. But the geese, they definitely, I always say there'd be a lot more geese alive if they didn't honk, because that honk usually tips you off to their round and gives you time to get ready.
Are you
like a turkey?
Like a turkey, exactly. Yeah.
Yeah. Follow through her.
Are you hunting local birds right now, or have the flight birds come down yet?
Well, that's always a topic of debate. Right now, I would say primarily in the area, we've got local birds. There's no real way of knowing, but it's been a little warm, and there's a lot of debate on open. We opened a week earlier on Saginaw Bay, so yep. Actually, the flock of birds are out front here. So
all right, go for it.
Cool.
Go for it.
Make some noise.
It would be very cool.
And yeah, it looks like they're slipping to the side of us here.
What are they, Jeff? Can you tell by the wing beat?
No, it's looked like a smaller diver. So yeah, they kind of dropped down and hit the water and kept on going. So that didn't work out for us.
Is it critical these days under the harvest system that you identify them on the wing like it used to be in the old days? Is it as important?
Yes. So today, for example, and right now, the first 15 days of our 60-day season, we can shoot one bluebill. And then the next 45 days, we can shoot 2 a day on the bluebills. So, being able to identify birds on the wing, it definitely helps. If we shoot 2 more bluebills, then we will have our 5. Everybody will get their one bluebill here, hopefully. And then hopefully we get some other species around so you get some variety. And, 2 redheads is pretty typical out here. You can shoot a couple of canvasbacks. So, yeah, identification on the wing is definitely an asset. And it'll be a requirement once we get all our bluebills.
Yeah. Well, I've always said, too, that I think big waterfowl hunting is not something a person can really teach themselves. You need to find somebody who will take you under their wing, no pun intended, and get you started.
Yeah, it's I started with my dad, back in the early 70s as a youngster toting a Red Ryder. And then, our good friend Doug Deming, when I got out of the Navy, worked for him for a few years, and then got a real live job for a while and decided I really missed this. And, now we're, basically full-time hunting and fishing and spending some time at Linwood Beach Marina with Scott and the gang there. And things just seem to kind of work out.
Well, and I think if somebody wants to try big waterfowl hunting, to sign up with a guy like you, Captain Jeff Godi of the Michigan Experience, themichiganexperience.com. Go to the website, and you can learn more. You can learn how to get in touch with Jeff. Jeff, always a pleasure. Have fun. Say hi to Scott for me, and we'll talk again soon.
All right, Mike. Thanks for having me. Good talking with you.
All right, pleasure's mine. Jeff Godi, Captain Jeff Godi of the Michigan Experience, themichiganexperience.com, out on Saginaw Bay, chasing, flying, squawking, sometimes frustrating critters. More coming up after the break right here on Outdoor Magazine. You can hear the Outdoor Magazine show in Tawas. Sorry about that. On WIOS. I was watching Pat. Pat's watching me, and he's already got the mic open, so he's like, why aren't you talking, Avery? That one's on me. WIOS in Tawas, 1480 AM and 106.9 FM. And you can hear us in Port Huron on WPHM, 1380 AM. This segment of Outdoor Magazine brought to you by MUCC's On the Ground program. OTG is a program to improve habitat for fish and wildlife across the state. For details, check out the Michigan United Conservation Club's website, MUCC.org. That's MUCC.org. On that website, if you use the promo code Mike, all caps, MIKE, you can save 25% on your MUCC membership. How cool is that? Speaking of cool things and cool programs, the Michigan Sportsmen Against Hunger, I think, is an outstanding program. This is a program where hunters can donate venison to help those in need. It's a win-win-win. It helps out people who need some help. It gives you an outlet for your venison that you might not be going to use, and it makes us, as hunters, it puts us in a positive, favorable public light. Dean Hall is the director of Michigan Sportsmen Against Hunger, the website sportsmenagainsthunger.org. He joins us now on the Outdoor Magazine phone line. Dean, welcome back.
Hey there, Mike.
So listen, tell me a little bit more. I briefly outlined how the program works, but give us some details, please.
Okay. Basically, we have on our website, we have a list of processors. We also have a drop pin map, so that if anyone wants to look for processors on the list or just check out the drop pin map wherever they are in the state, they could pull it up and go to these processors. They take their deer in because the processors are working with us. Tell them that they're donating the deer to Michigan Sportsmen Against Hunger, and it doesn't cost them anything.
So you guys, Sportsmen Against Hunger, are paying the tab to the processor.
Well, within all actuality, it goes through us, but every single time that someone purchases a hunting or a fishing license in the state of Michigan, they should have the option to be asked if they want to voluntarily donate $1 or more.
Oh, yeah, I've seen that. I remember that. Yeah, okay.
Yep. And that's where the funds are generated at.
Ah, gotcha. All right, so it won't cost us as hunters anything. Do we have an option? Can we be picky and say, look, I want half my deer back, but I don't want it all? Or is it an all or nothing thing, Dean?
Yeah, it's an all or nothing thing.
Venison only?
Venison only at this point in time.
And where does this meat go?
It goes to local food banks, pantries, or shelters that work with the processors around the Michigan Sportsman Against Hunger processor list. As a matter of fact, just for example, this past hunting season, from October 1st to September 31st, because that's how our contract works for the state of Michigan, there was over 85,000 pounds of venison that was distributed by 33 different Michigan Sportsmen Against Hunger processors located in 25 different counties, supplied 104 different food banks, pantries, and shelters, creating up to, over 300,000 hot and high in protein meals.
That's amazing, Dean. Congrats.
Well, congrats to everybody that participates and supports the program. Either supports it financially with a donation or of funds or a deer.
Is there a problem? Are there some of these food banks, these shelters, that won't take this meat because maybe it's not inspected or whatever?
By inspected, well, I don't know exactly.
Well, let me rephrase. Sometimes people are reluctant, even though they're in need, to take wild game for whatever reason. Is that ever a problem with you guys?
No, because it's all ground into burger, and it's used in products like chili, tacos, goulash, spaghetti, hamburgers. I mean, whatever they need to use it for. And each one of our processors, one of the mandatory things about our processors is they have to be inspected and approved by either the Michigan Department of Agriculture and or the USDA.
Gotcha. Okay, now I understand. Okay. So there's no downside to this, Dean. I can't see anything negative about this program at all.
No, sir. It's outstanding. The hunters support it. Non-hunters support it as well. And not only that, when hunters donate during the point of a hunting fishing license purchase, they're footing the bill, too.
As we so often do.
Yes, we do.
The website is sportsmenagainsthunger.org, sportsmenagainsthunger.org. You can go there and find a processor in your area. Dean, there might not be one on the next block, but there's going to be one somewhere nearby, I would suspect.
We constantly try to work on recruiting processors, Mike. And if there's one quick thing that I could add, during this coming up year, like there was last year, there's a raffle, and anyone that goes on sportsmenagainsthunger.org could check out our 2021 raffle. People that donate deer at any Michigan Sportsman Against Hunger processor during the course of the hunting seasons, they have a chance to win prizes. Or they could also go to Jay's Sporting Goods that's going to have at their Clare location, they're going to have a deer drive for Michigan Sportsman Against Hunger. That's November 16th, 17th, 20th. And Frank's Great Outdoors in Linwood is also going to have a deer drive for Michigan Sportsmen Against Hunger on November 16th and 17th. So all that information is on our website.
On the website, sportsmenagainsthunger.org, sportsmenagainsthunger.org. Dean Hall, thank you. It's a great program. We'll take a break. Greg Abbas coming up in hour number 2.
Time now for Michigan's #1 outdoor radio show, Mike Avery's Outdoor Magazine. Outdoor Magazine is brought to you by Jay Sporting Goods, the Yider Insurance Group, Angler Quest Pontoons and Polarcraft Boats, the Forward Corporation, Primal Tree Stands, Shadow Hunter Blinds, Security Credit Union, Garber Chevrolet, and by Michigan Brand Meats. Now, here's Mike Avery.
Well, thank you, Ken Hunter, for that introduction, and welcome to hour number 2 of this week's Outdoor Magazine show right here on the Outdoor Magazine Radio Network. So glad to have you along with us as I'm sitting here in the radio studio recording this week's radio show. Did I say the word radio enough? I do feel the need, and maybe this is only for me, to make a distinction about an outdoor radio show versus podcasts. I love podcasting. I think podcasting is a wonderful way for anybody to reach an audience. No longer do you need a studio or all this fancy equipment or whatever to get your message out. And that's the wonderful thing about podcasting. However, I will admit I do take some pride in the fact that Outdoor Magazine Radio is a statewide syndicated radio show heard on more than 24 stations, been on the air for more than 30 years, and there aren't that many outdoor radio shows on the air. So I think that sets this show apart in some ways. And I think the best way to listen is on your local radio station if you can. You get your local news, weather, sports, even your local commercials. And the radio stations get the content of the show before the podcast is uploaded. However, if your local affiliate doesn't carry all 3 hours of the show, or if you live in some part of our state not covered by the broadcast signal of the radio show, isn't it nice to know that there is indeed a podcast version available? Where do you hear that? You can hear it on the website, MikeAveryOutdoors.com. I put it up on my Facebook page. It's on Amazon Music. It's on Audible. It's on my Twitter feed. It's on LinkedIn, iTunes, Google Play, iHeartRadio, SoundCloud, Spotify, TuneIn, Stitcher, Player FM, Deezer, and Odyssey. I even put it up on YouTube. And people watch/listen to it on YouTube. Also have to point out, as long as I'm doing some blatant self-promotion here, I do monthly podcasts for some of the companies I work with, including Jay's Sporting Goods, Offshore Tackle, Angler Quest Boats, Killer Food Plots, Polar Craft Boats, and Shadowhunter Blinds. And in fact, when we're done here in the studio recording this week's radio show, we will record an Offshore Tackle podcast. You can find all those podcasts. Just do a Google search example for Jay's Sporting Goods podcast, or the Jay's podcast is on the Jay's website, Offshore is on the Offshore website, et cetera, et cetera. Regardless of how you are hearing my voice or when you are hearing my voice, thank you. I do certainly appreciate it. I can't say that enough. Because if you didn't listen, if you didn't follow me on social media, if you weren't supportive over so many years, I would not be able to do what I am today. And God has blessed me with this, and you are a big part of that, and I thank you so much for that. God also blessed me when he gave me a chance to meet and get to know and become friends with our guest this hour. His name is Greg Abbas. You know Greg, you know his dad, Fred. They are huge names in the outdoor world here in the great state of Michigan. Away Outdoors, the website awayhunting.com. For many, many years, Greg and Fred were, they did a television show for many years. You know them from coming up with the Bow Grunter, the Bow Grunter Plus, so many other great products. These days, Greg is also involved in invention consulting, and we may get a chance to talk about that as well. But it can't be October, and I can't be talking with Greg Abbas without talking a little deer hunting. Greg, my friend, welcome back. How are you?
Oh, I'm doing great, Mike. And let me say the Lord blessed us both and blessed me to know you as well.
Well, I appreciate you saying that. It's early in the season, Greg, but have you had a chance to get out at all? How are things going?
Yeah, got out. I always have a lot of fun in the setup. You know, you work all summer for this moment and to see if it's going to pay off. And, I get a lot of excitement just doing that. And it's a bit early yet from what I'm seeing. I think things are going to run just a tad later this year would be my hunch. But still a lot of fun and excitement just being out there.
When you talk about your setup, Greg, what do you mean specifically? Tree stand, ground blinds, food plots, sanctuary areas? What are you talking about? What's the magic puzzle, the magic mix here?
All of the above. It's a lot
I figured
of work.
You were going to say that.
But, it's less and less work. When you initially set up, these safe zones, the bedding areas, and it goes into like auto mode after a while. You just keep the trails open after a while, but initially when you set aside that safe zone that you're not allowed into, it takes a while for the deer to learn that there's no human scent in there, and that's where I should be. And when you start mowing the trails to the food plots that you've put in a lot of work and probably do throughout the year, eventually they learn to take them trails that you've mowed and made it nice and easy for them to get to those food plots where you want them to be and intercept them going to and from come hunting season. But it's just a lot of fun doing all that work. I take a lot of enjoyment in doing that.
A lot of these things you're talking about, Greg, I suspect are for those lucky enough to have private land or some access to some private land. Are any of these things that you've learned and taught over the years that can be taken out to public land, state land?
Some of them. The state does do some plantings, and it wouldn't hurt for you to talk to some of the biologists in your area and see where maybe they've put in some rye fields or see where they've done any type of plantings. It is definitely different tactics you would use on state land. And granted, when it comes to deer, I've not done a whole lot of that, but I've made a career, in my early days of guiding turkey hunters on state land. So I know the tactics employed, and whether it was for deer or turkey, you have to use the traffic on state land to your advantage. And you know darn well people are going to be driving up those back trails, and they're not going to travel far from their vehicles, usually within a couple hundred yards, and they're going to drive the deer and the turkey a little deeper in, once the season starts. And you just have to be prepared for that and use it to your advantage and let them drive the deer to you.
Well, and some of the things I know that you and I have talked about in the past, like mock scrapes and such, those would work on public land. Those would work on state land.
Oh, gosh, yeah. And my dad developed a super tactic, once the pre-rut begins, called cluster scrapes. But we do like our mock scrapes early in the season. We even start them in the summer with a curiosity scent, which is usually an ammonia-based product. And you're drawing on curiosity, and you make a mock scrape that's, maybe 12, 14 inches wide to begin with, and you put whatever your favorite mix is going to be, usually a synthetic, and let them start being familiar with that as you go down to the trails. And when they start feeling that urge, sometime here in October, they're going to turn your mock scrape into a real scrape, and you're going to see this really pay off. But you want these in areas that is going to do well for you. Don't just drop this off out in the middle of nowhere and, wonder why it didn't work. They put them off to the sides of trails. And like I said, and I said many times on your show, it'd be like your kid setting up a lemonade stand. You're not going to have your kid do it behind the house where nobody can see. You're going to go out a little closer to the road where, the traffic can see the sign and, maybe pick up some lemonade. You're doing the same thing with the deer. You got to do it off of the sides of the trails, but to a place that's advantageous to you, where you're either going to get a shot or you're going to catch them going between scrapes.
Deer are social and sometimes curious critters, and it sounds to me like we can use that. I don't want to say against them, but we can use it to help ourselves out. Yeah,
no doubt about it. Whether it's the curiosity calling or the curiosity sense, definitely in the early season you want to work on the curiosity and not so much the sexual, because there's just little to none of that happening right now. So you got to go on curiosity, because if you think about it, deer live within a certain territory, just like at your house. You know every voice that belongs in the house. And the smells, for that matter. When a skunk goes by the yard and it brings the breeze in the window, that smell doesn't belong in the house. Or you hear a strange voice in the house, it doesn't belong. It's the same thing with the deer, except if you're doing another deer sound or another deer scent, they're curious and they want to find out who's in my yard.
With that in mind, I would think less is more and subtle is better.
Oh, definitely. You don't want to go overboard. As I mentioned, the ammonia-based I really like early season, and then It doesn't take much of it. Deer sense of smell is 10,000 times better than ours. 10,000. It's hard to fathom that, but that's how they make their living and their survival. So definitely you hit on a good point. You want to go more subtle. It doesn't take much. I think you could actually overdo it, whether it's synthetic or real.
We're talking with Greg Abbas of A-Way Outdoors, the website, awayhunting.com, awayhunting.com. We got to take a break here in the Outdoor Magazine show. But when we come back, so many more questions for Greg. This guy's history goes way back. He was a multiple turkey calling champ. He parlayed that into a guide service, then into coming up with products, him and his dad Fred, then the TV show, now Invention Consulting, helping other people get down this path that Greg knows so well. Interesting guy and a very, very good hunter. And I will ask him more questions and pick his brain because he's always very open. Greg never holds anything back. If he knows a secret or a trick to help you be more effective in the woods, he will share it. And I will ask him to do that after the break right here on Outdoor Magazine. You can hear the Outdoor Magazine show in St. Joe on WSJM 94.9 FM, long time affiliate. Two of our newer affiliates, WMIC and Sandusky, 660 AM and 95.3 FM. Appreciate that. And we can go to the Sioux, ESPN 1400 WKNW. This segment of Outdoor Magazine is brought to you by VersaSkins. Just change the skin for the season you're in is the motto, and it's a very cool, very well-made, Michigan-based, family-owned company. They make hunting clothes with a very cool concept. There is a zip-on, snap-on outer lining, an outer garment that you can change for the season. There, you can put on blaze orange for gun season, camouflage for bow season, white for predator hunting, and that way you don't have to go out and buy multiple hunting suits. You can buy one good, weatherproof, warm suit and just change the skin for the season you're in. Very, very cool concept. Check them out online at versaskins.com. That's versaskins.com. While you are online, please check out my website, MikeAveryOutdoors.com. Then head on over to awayhunting.com, the website of A-Way Outdoors. Greg Abbas, one of the primary folks in A-Way Outdoors. Greg, thinking back, I'm thinking back when you and I first met. It was so many years ago. Gosh, it's got to be 30, 35 years ago?
Probably so.
makes us, well, I shouldn't say that. It makes me feel old.
You know, my wife and I just celebrated our 35th anniversary. So,
oh, congratulations. Congratulations.
So, yeah, our friendship goes back a long ways.
Let's talk about this concept of trying to fool a whitetail, or at least trying to put the odds a little bit more in our favor. What is more important? Is it scent? Is it sound? Is it placement? What is it? What's the hierarchy?
I don't know that it's so much a hierarchy. You need those three things for sure because as in fishing, you don't know what a fish is going to bite on in a certain day, and same thing with the deer. Now, granted, they survive by their nose, so that's very important, but it's also important to try to call to get their attention, and then when they go downwind of you, downwind of that sound, and they actually smell something too, it just reinforces in their mind that they need to be there. So the positioning is important because it goes back to the lemonade stand. Where are you going to position? You just can't do it in the middle of nowhere. You want to do it where a lot of runs come together as far as, where I'm going to set up a stand. But then as far as using the tools of trying to attract them, yeah, the hearing for sure, especially when they're in the distance. Maybe they're not downwind, so you need the hearing aspect. And I witnessed a big buck on film, and I filmed it, during our TV show on a hunt. It took him 20 minutes after he acknowledged my sound to do a big circle, and I catch parts of him every now and then. I could not believe how patient he was in his approach. People think that you give out a call, and if a deer is going to respond, they're just going to come flying in toward you. And granted, that happens sometimes, but boy, I'll tell you, some of these big bucks, they're very patient. They want to know who's there, and they take their time. And boy, you could sure make a lot of mistakes if you didn't know he's there. Thinking, if you get impatient yourself.
Let's talk more about calling, because the Bow Grunner Plus that you guys came up with years ago is still, in my opinion, the most versatile, best deer call that I certainly have ever used. How do we use a tool like that, Greg?
Oh, it's an awesome call, and we sold that patent, by the way, along with our scent product, one of the scent products. But I like to use, and you can still pick it up, it's just through another company now.
Well, now that you bring it up, where would I find that these days?
Bossman Outdoors.
Bossman Outdoors, okay.
And then our synthetic, we used to have the scent web. We sold that to HME.
HME, I know those guys. Sure,
right.
Good people. Yeah,
that's
yeah.
right.
Yeah.
Yep, they are. But as far as the calling, there's definitely a social calling and a peak rut, or at least a pre-rut calling. During the early season, I like doing the social calling. So typically on Bow Grunner Plus, I'll put my setting on a doe setting, and I'll take the extender tube off, and I just do short grunts. It sounds like this. And again, it's social. You're just trying to put out a sound, a different voice in the house that they want to come explore, because deer are territorial. It works on both bucks and does. And, a doe setting, a doe sound is never a threat, whereas if you were to use a dominant sound at this time of year, you could scare away other bucks, whether they're big or not. Not everybody's a fighter. But social calling, you want to go soft and subtle.
And would you use that this time of year already?
Absolutely. Deer grunt throughout the whole year, and the social calling is what you hear. It's more of a soft sound, and if you've spent any time in the woods in a tree stand early season, you've heard it. You've heard it from does too, and fawns, and the bucks. It's just a sound they make year-round, soft and subtle. It's not the big, deep, loud grunts that you hear in the pre-rut and rut.
Well, in fact, here, like a state like Michigan, if you, and I know this because you've told me this in the past, if you use that deep, dominant buck grunt like we hear on the TV shows sometimes, it's going to do more harm than good around here.
Oh, absolutely. Just go from your own experiences. What you hear at that time of year is what they're doing, and that's what you want to do. So they will get a little louder and deeper as the season gets on, and they get a little more silly. But right now, you absolutely can call in deer. You got to have the patience, got to do the soft, subtle tones, and typically I like a 3-note sequence of a short grunt, spread a few seconds apart. And you just have to picture that deer walking through the woods, and you give out a sound, and they go, "What was that?" And then you give out the second one, and they go, "Oh, it was a deer." Then the third one kind of gives them the direction. You don't want to keep calling, because deer don't carry on a conversation back and forth, like a turkey does. So don't overcall. Just when they acknowledge you, their ears and head turn your way, let it go for a while. They've heard you, and if it's going to take 20 minutes for them to circle in, so be it.
So once they hear you and acknowledge it, then pretty much just shut up and let happen what's going to happen.
Right. Unless they're going to continue on a path that's going to take them away from you, then you have nothing to lose. Then you might grunt a little more, but there's times where they just have something on their mind, and they want to get to a certain spot, and no calling in the world's going to bring them in. But there's other times where you're able to turn that deer, bring them in, and get that shot off, and it is so rewarding. What
about rattling antlers? Is there any reason for that here in Michigan?
Oh, yes, definitely. You see young bucks spar all the time. In fact, I just seen that happen recently here. And they're not trying to kill each other. They're playing around, but yet they're still working on dominance because they're shoving, but they're not trying to kill each other. and it's more of what I call tickling the tines. And what I have in my hands right now are some real antlers, probably from a 2 or 3 year old buck. And this is what it sounds like, at least the way I like to rattle. And I'll usually put in a young buck grunt, which is just a little deeper than the doe. I still keep the extender tube off, so it would sound like this. It's a little deeper. Put in some rattles. And, set the antlers down for 20 minutes and see if anything comes in.
And again, that's for a little bit later in the season, probably?
No, you could do that now.
Could you?
Oh, yeah, absolutely. It works excellent, too, during the pre-rut as well. But, you're not getting that big crashing like you might during peak rut where you...
Yeah.
I still like, instead of doing that, unless I'm hunting Illinois, Iowa, Kansas or something, I'd rather do the tickling of the tines here in Michigan, even during peak rut, because a buck's going to know the sounds, and he's going to hear that tickling of the tines, and he's going to think, well, there's 2 young bucks sparring on my turf, and that's his area, and he's going to come in to defend it and beat up these 2 young guys without fear. So, if you get in a fight, you don't want to take on a guy who's 300 pounds when you're a 100-pounder.
Right, yeah.
You'd rather take on someone, a lot less. So it's better to tickle the tines and make that big buck believe that there's young bucks there that he needs to drive off, and nothing that's going to beat him up.
Before I let you go, too, we've got to talk about your invention consulting service, because I have so many people come to me and say, Avery, how do I do this? And I always say, I don't know. I've never brought a product to market, but I know a guy who has, and I know a guy who can help you, and I send him your direction. Tell me more about this service.
Well, I specialize in hunting, fishing, camping, and obviously 30 years of being in the business, I got great relationships with a lot of the companies out there. And there's so many mistakes that new inventors make, because you're sitting in your stand and you go, boy, if I would have had this, I would have had this buck, and that's what leads to an invention. But then people don't know what to do with that invention, so they call a patent attorney who's happy to sell them a real big, expensive package, and you don't need to do that yet. Especially if you want to work a deal with one of these companies, it's not a hard process, and the average guy can afford it. The way I do things is very pinpoint and precise. There's no waste of money, time. But where they make the biggest mistake is in the patent process right at the beginning. There's a lot of mistakes to be had. And, they think that it's going to cost too much, so a lot of people don't even pursue it. And, that's too bad, because it's just a matter of time before someone else thinks of the same thing or runs into the same problem and comes up with the same solution. I don't know how many times I've heard inventors say, I had an idea like this 3 years ago and I didn't do nothing with it, and there I just saw it in one of the big catalogs, the hunting catalogs.
Yeah, I've heard the same thing, and how heartbreaking that would be. Well, Greg, listen, I would strongly encourage somebody. I mean, I will personally vouch for you. You're a stand-up guy. You're not going to take advantage of anybody, and you're going to help them get to the market if the product deems it, or if you deem it worthwhile, and if you don't, you'll let them know that as well. The website, awayhunting.com, awayhunting.com. Learn more about Greg and his invention consulting side of the business, and always appreciate his insight and expertise. We'll take a break here in the Outdoor Magazine Show. When we come back, Nick Greene of MUCC checks in. Their annual convention was last weekend. What resolutions did they pass? We'll find out after the break right here on Outdoor Magazine. You can hear the Outdoor Magazine Show in Sheboygan on Big Country Gold, WCBY, 1240 AM, 100.7 FM. And you can hear us in Lansing on WILS, 1320 AM. This segment of Outdoor Magazine brought to you by Reader Landscaping, where it's your nature and our nurture. Let Reader create an outdoor getaway in your backyard. Let them get your lawn and property ready for the season that comes up after fall. They'll do some fall cleanup for you, get everything ready to go. Maybe a fire pit. It's not too late to put in a fire pit. Doesn't that sound great for the fall? Check them out online at readerlandscaping.com. They stopped by my house the other day and did a fall fertilizer. Get us ready for the season that comes after fall. Readerlandscaping.com is the website, readerlandscaping.com. While you are online, please head on over to MUCC.org. That's the website for the Michigan United Conservation Clubs. If you want to save 25% on your MUCC membership, use the promo code Mike, all caps MIKE, and join a great organization and get a great price. Nick Greene is their Chief Information Officer, joins us now on the Outdoor Magazine phone line. Nick, welcome back.
Thanks for having me, Mike.
Always a pleasure. Listen, you guys just wrapped up your big annual convention. What can you tell me about that?
We did. So we're about 2 weeks out now from our annual convention, which is kind of our conservation Super Bowl here in Michigan. So it's really where we convene all of our voting delegates from throughout the state, and we debate and pass or vote down policy that kind of sets our organization up for the years to come. So we had a great turnout. About half of the voting delegates were new to convention, which was inspiring and good to see. So overall, it was a great weekend. We had lots of award winners recognized. Some among the department, like Al Stewart, received the 50 Years of Service to Conservation Award. The Abrams Foundation received our Special Conservation Award. Wayne Hansen was our Volunteer of the Year. So a great turnout, great gathering of conservationists, and we passed some good policies, too. What
weight do these policies have, Nick?
You know, it really depends on what the charge of the policy is. So some kind of are saying, you know, we should help educate the public or conservationists about an issue. Some are very specific, saying work with the legislature on this issue. Some are specific to the NRC. So of note, you know, two that we had passed this year were one resolution that would allow spring turkey hunters to purchase a second turkey tag if the quotas are not filled.
Ooh, that's a big one.
That is a big one, and that will be a heavy lift, and it's something that, you know, our members have spoken on with over 2/3 majority at convention and said they want us to pursue. So that, for example, is going to take work with the Natural Resources Commission, who sets our regulations. Another resolution we had passed that's kind of grabbing some headlines and getting the attention of folks is to support the designation of feral cats as invasive. So currently, feral cats are recognized as domestic animals by MDAR, the Michigan Department of Agriculture and Rural Development. And we, you know, what this resolution would try to do essentially is say we're not going to be the tip of the spear to lead this charge, but we would certainly support organizations working to designate them as invasive, because currently, as it stands, you are not allowed to kill a cat. That is a felony, just like it is a dog as well.
Well, and this is very interesting because, you know, obviously here, you know, there are going to be some emotions on both sides of this, but the experts will tell you that feral cats do an awful lot of damage to nesting birds, young critters. I mean, they are a factor.
Yeah, I mean, there are numerous studies out there from both sides of the aisle, from the center of the aisle, from think tanks, from colleges, that just talk about the decimation impact that feral cats have. I mean, they kill millions and billions sometimes of reptile species, bird species a year. Of individual animals of those species. So, yeah, I mean, they are devastating to our wildlife. You know, the trick with this is how do you distinguish the difference between a feral cat and a domestic cat that someone may let outside?
Yep.
You know, so this is not an easy topic, not an easy subject. And again, it's one we're not going to be the tip of the spear on, but we would certainly support.
I find it interesting and fascinating, the entire process of how you guys have the convention, how you bring up these resolutions, how you pass. You talk about a grassroots, and you do talk about that. You say, you know, MUCC is a grassroots organization. This is certainly the proof of that.
It is. You know, I mean, someone has to bring their resolution forward, and not very often do we have a resolution just unanimously not have conversation about it. I mean, folks come up to the opposing microphone, the support microphone. They kind of lay their case out for the body in front of them, and sometimes that takes 10 minutes. Sometimes it takes an hour and a half, depending on the resolution. But it gets debated and then voted on by the voting body. And, these rules that would change law or NRC regulations require a 2/3 majority. So if you're going to propose something like the turkey tag, for example, that required 2/3 majority, you have to make your case and help people understand why you think that's a good idea. And it's just it's a great process.
Nick, have you had a chance to get out and have any fun, especially now that the convention's over with?
I have. We're coming off the Middle Zone duck opener, so we were able to get out and get some mallards and wood ducks, and looking forward to South Zone this weekend. All
right, Nick. Have fun. Appreciate what you guys are doing. I'll look forward to talking again soon.
Thanks, Mike.
Nick Greene of MUCC, Michigan United Conservation Clubs. Again, the website, MUCC.org, MUCC.org. Use the promo code Mike, all caps, and save 25% on your MUCC membership. We'll take a break. When we come back. This week's Ask Avery question, and this deals with a post that I put online, a video that I did years and years ago called Ted and Fred. It's about the tribute that rocker Ted Nugent did to archery icon Fred Bear. I'll tell you the story of how that all happened, how I got it on tape, and a little bit more after the break right here on Outdoor Magazine. You can hear the Outdoor Magazine show in Flint on Sports Extra 1330 WTRX. You can hear us in Houghton Lake on 98.5 WUPS Blowtorch Station. Very, very powerful station. And you can hear us in Muskegon on WKBZ. That's 1090 AM. The Ask Avery segment is brought to you each week by my friends at Security Credit Union. Security Credit Union loves to work with outdoorsmen and women, and they can help you with your next outdoor adventure. Check them out online at securitycu.org. That's securitycu.org. The way the Ask Avery segment works is this is your chance to pose a question to me, something that you want me to answer directly, or maybe a question you'd like me to ask of somebody in MUCC or DNR or something along that line that maybe you can't reach and I possibly can. The best way to get these to me, I think, is to send me an email, Mike at MikeAveryOutdoors.com. That's Mike at MikeAveryOutdoors.com. Although you can also hit me up on the social media messaging platforms. But I'll be honest, there are so many of them out there these days that it's kind of hard for me to keep track of them all. So I suggest Mike at MikeAveryOutdoors.com. And that's what John Sebastian did. He sent me an email. He said, Mike, I saw you post on the opening day of bow season a video called Ted and Fred. He said, can you tell me a little bit about how that happened, how that came to be? Yeah, it's kind of an interesting, I think it's an interesting story. And actually, I wouldn't be shocked at all. Uncle Ted Nugent, spends the fall, a lot of it here in Michigan, and he said he hears the show as he's driving around the state. So, Ted, if you're hearing this, hey, I'd love to get you back on the show, by the way. So the way this happened is I used to work quite closely with Ted Nugent. He's a hardcore rocker, but an avid outdoorsman. In fact, the very first TV show he ever did before he started the very, very popular show, I co-hosted and produced a pilot TV show for him that, never got legs, and it's good because the show that he did became extraordinarily successful. I had also, and the first time I ever met Ted Nugent was when I was at Grouse Haven interviewing Fred Bear. So you talk about a very cool experience. I'm interviewing Fred Bear, and Ted Nugent pulls up in a Corvette. How cool is this? I got to realize, okay, these guys have a very special relationship. It's not just a PR thing. This is a real relationship. They're friends. They have a mutual respect. And that's why Nugent did the song Fred Bear, which has become a hunter's anthem. It's hard to go through an October 1st without hearing or playing the song Fred Bear. The first time I heard the song, I was speechless, in shock, So I got a hold of Ted because I had this video of Fred Bear, right? I had video of Fred Bear shooting his bow and talking to me. I said, okay, I heard the song. I'd like to come down and interview you about how this all happened, what you were thinking, and I'll combine the video of the two. I'll combine the video of my interview with Ted Nugent talking about how he came up with the hunter's anthem, Fred Bear. I'll get video of Ted wandering through the fields at his place and shooting his bow, and I'll intercut it with a video of Fred Bear. Ted says, yeah, come on down. At the time, he was living down around Jackson, so we came down. When I say we, Rick Mixter. Rick is a guy that I used to work with years ago who is one of the most talented and creative people I have ever been blessed to work with. At the time, he was behind the camera. And he got some very cool shots, something like a rack focus that ended up just right. Just hit the focus perfect on a broadhead in front of Ted's arrow. So I took the interview with Ted, intercut it with video of Fred, used some audio of the song Fred Bear, and it just kind of came together. And it was just one of those things where as I'm doing it, as I'm editing it, I'm thinking, you know what? This is pretty special. You will see a lot of video online of Ted Nugent performing or singing Fred Bear. I'm not sure you will see any other video in existence of Ted Nugent performing Fred Bear, talking about the concept behind it, and then also using video of Fred Bear himself. So it became a very special project. It's been around now for many, many years, and it's something that I like to dredge up every once in a while and post just to remind people what a cool thing it was. So, John, I appreciate the question about how that all came to be. Ted, if you're listening, I appreciate you letting me be a part of it, and let's get you back on the air here. Again, my thanks to the folks at Security Credit Union for for making each week's Ask Avery segment possible. Check them out online at securitycu.org. That's securitycu.org. And if you have a question for me, whether you want to direct it, at me, something like this question about Ted and Fred, something about, I hear questions all the time about baiting. Don't look for baiting to come back. Baiting in the Lower Peninsula, it's not on the radar screen at all. But a question like that, directed to the DNR, whatever, send me an email to Mike@MikeAveryOutdoors.com. That's Mike@MikeAveryOutdoors.com. And the Ask Avery segment is always the last segment in the second hour of the show. We will take a break now and get ready for the final hour, the third hour of this week's show, with a guy I always love to talk to, John Eberhart, the Deer Whisperer. We could talk for days, but we'll make it the better part of an hour, coming up in hour number 3.
Time now for Michigan's #1 outdoor radio show, Mike Avery's Outdoor Magazine. Outdoor Magazine is brought to you by J Sporting Goods, the Yider Insurance Group, Angler Quest Pontoons and Polarcraft Boats, The Forward Corporation, Primal Tree Stands, Shadow Hunter Blinds, Security Credit Union, Garber Chevrolet, and by Michigan Brand Meats. Now, here's Mike Avery.
Indeed, this is the big guy, Mike Avery, and welcome to hour number 3 of this week's Outdoor Magazine show right here on the Outdoor Magazine Radio Network. So glad to have you along with us. So glad it's the month of Rocktober. I love the fall season. I love the fact that the weather usually starts to cool down, although as we're sitting in the studio now, and I will tell you right now that we are doing a little bit of time shifting. Recording this show a little bit earlier than usual because I'm getting ready to head down to Ohio on a whitetail hunt with my buddy Bill Piles of Ohio Bow Hunting Outfitters. I haven't been down there. I was talking to Bill the other day, actually in 14 years, I think he said, since I've been down there. Now, back when I had a TV show, I did a lot of out-of-state hunts. Kansas, Illinois, Ohio, Nebraska, Ontario, Alberta. But these days, since I don't have the TV show, I don't want to say forced, but there's really no reason for me to make a lot of these out-of-state hunts. However, Bill came on one of my Wednesday night lives one night, and I do these every Wednesday night at 7 o'clock on my social media outlets. And we got talking about the concept of bringing some people down. So we put together an outing, and we got a dozen or so hunters going down, and I'm excited about it. I'm excited about, seeing a lot of my friends that I know personally, friends that I've only met online, and getting down there and seeing Bill and Joan and Neil and the crew, and maybe getting to see a big Ohio whitetail. I am not nearly as serious about whitetail hunting as I used to be. But the thought of getting a nice buck within range is appealing. I would like that. The guy who first even suggested that maybe I should go on some out-of-state hunts back when I was trying to fill a weekly TV show is John Eberhart. You know John. He's the Whitetail Whisperer. He's one of the most accomplished whitetail hunters in the country, and he has a unique lane that he travels in, and that is he doesn't lease land. He doesn't own land. He knocks on doors. He gets access to very small, sometimes pieces of property, and he consistently takes big, mature bucks out of those areas, and that's one of the reasons he's become probably Michigan's most well-known whitetail hunter. And he joins me now on the Outdoor Magazine phone line. John, welcome back. How have you been?
Thank you, Mike. I've been very well. I love that Whitetail Whisperer. That's a cool name.
Well, you've certainly earned it. I mean, how many years, how many bucks, how many stories, how much information, how many seminars, how many radio conversations, podcasts. I mean, you are the man.
I don't know about being the man. I just try to help hunters be more successful. It's kind of interesting. On my YouTube channel, I posted a video on washing accessories, aiders on your sticks and washing your saddle. I hunt out of the saddle. And at the end, I kind of gave hey, if you're interested in a scent control regiment, email me scent control regiment request, and I'll send like 10 canned documents that I just sent. And I've had over 300 of those. I'm still responding to them.
Well, just in that statement alone, you bring up a couple of very interesting points I need to follow up on. You said, yeah, I'm a saddle hunter. No, John, you are the saddle hunter. You are the man who brought this to the forefront. Now, a lot of other people are jumping on it, but nobody's been hunting out of a saddle, I think, at least in the public eye, as long as you have.
Nope. I actually met a guy. I did a little event in Pennsylvania, and I met a man there that started hunting out of a saddle sling. It was a tree sling at the time. The same year I did in 1981.
Wow.
Other than him, I don't think I've known anybody really that's hunted out of them any earlier than like 2000.
What is the reason? What's the appeal? Why have you stuck with that over the decades?
Oh, it's just so much more versatile. It weighs 2 pounds. It's made out of fabric. It's kind of interesting. I've hunted 3 hunts this year, and I hunted one of my brother's spots downstate because he's in South Carolina, and he uses a platform, but he hunts out of a saddle as well. But he has a platform with steps around the back, and it creaked. When I was up in there, I was moving around, and that little platform creaked, and that's a major issue with anything made out of metal is potential creak when you adjust your weight for a shot. So it doesn't make noise. It's made out of fabric. Nobody can steal it. It's always with you. It's got its own safety ropes, so you can't fall. It's impossible to fall. And tens of thousands of people fell out of tree stands. Nobody can hunt your stands on public land when you're not there because the saddle is not there. You can hide behind the tree. You move around the tree. You can shoot 360. You can hide behind it if it's deer coming through you don't want to shoot. I actually have a document with, I think, 22 or 23 advantages over any conventional tree stand. And you tend to hunt higher because After you've used it a while, you are just more safe, and it's a lot more comfortable because you're sitting in a hammock-like seat. It's like looking at a guy on a consumer's power pole. So it's more comfortable, it's more versatile, just a plethora of reasons. And as I've said a million times on podcasts, there's two things in the industry now that people can take advantage of that have changed my success rate. Number one was hunting out of a saddle. That probably quadrupled my kills on mature bucks. And number two would be the use of activated carbon line clothing, which is obviously ScentLock because they own the patent on using it. So those two things have changed my hunting career and success huge.
And I'll come back to both of those. But let me ask you a stupid question. How do you get up a tree in the first place when you're hunting with a saddle?
You ascend a tree in the exact same manner you would if you were using a hang-on. So you can use sticks, screw-in steps on private, strap-on steps. Sticks is the most prevalent way most guys are doing it. And sticks have came a long way. I mean, over the last 3 years, sticks have just went wild. I mean, Tethered, who is actually marketing my signature saddle, they came out with this one stick. It's called the One Stick, and it's expensive. It's $120, and it's a single stick. It's two steps, one on the bottom and one at the top, and it's made out of titanium. It weighs less than a pound, and people are using sticks with aiders, which is just fabric. You just put these fabric aiders on the bottom of the stick, 1, 2, or 3 steps. So one stick you can go up like 4 steps with these, fabric aiders strapped on. So that's the most prevalent, the most known way that people are hunting now. Hawk makes a pretty decent stick, Hawk helium sticks, Beast sticks, Shikara sticks. There's a lot of really good aluminum sticks, but the titanium ones from Tethered are hands down the best, but they're out of stock right now.
So you use sticks or climbing sticks or something to get up there, but once you're up there, then you are different from a lot of the other hunters these days. Is you don't use a platform, you don't use steps, you don't use anything else while you're up there other than you in the saddle.
Well, I use steps. I put a ring of steps around where I'm physically hunting. So at the level you're going to be hunting, you put either a strap-on ring of steps or screw-in steps around the tree. So you can physically easily move around the tree to keep the tree as a buffer or to shoot on the other side of the tree. Probably 70% of saddle hunters right now are hunting off platforms, and I personally don't like platforms. Platforms, typically when a hunter's hunting off a saddle on a platform, he's got his feet on the leading edge of the platform, which puts his body a lot farther away from the tree, whereas if you're using a ring of steps, you're typically straddling the tree. You're standing on steps to the side a little bit, and so your body profile doesn't stick out very far from the tree, so it's harder to get picked. And, right now when the foliage is on, it's not that big a deal. You got lots of cover, but once the foliage drops and, during the rut phases, it's a lot easier to get picked the farther your body is away from the tree, especially when you got to make a movement.
You said you tend to hunt higher in a saddle. How high off the ground are you, John?
It's pretty rare during the rut when the foliage is down that I'm not a minimum of 25 feet to my feet. Now, when the foliage is on like it is now, you can get away with hunting 12, 16, 18, 20 feet. Because you got a lot of background cover and cover in the tree. But once the foliage is down, you stick out like a sore thumb. So the higher you get, the more out of the peripheral vision of the deer that are coming through or are near the tree. So you can get away with, movements and drawing your bow and moving around the tree for shots. Hunting high makes a big difference in what you can get away with on the movement side when the foliage is down.
We're talking with Michigan's Whitetail Whisperer, John Eberhart. The website, eberhartswhitetailworkshop.com, eberhartswhitetailworkshop.com. Getting ready to take a break here on the Outdoor Magazine show, but so many things to talk with John about, including I have to follow up on his scent control regimen. John has been promoting this idea of carbon-based, i.e. ScentLock, clothes forever. John will tell you he doesn't even worry about the wind. I can't imagine that, because as whitetail hunters, what are we told? Play the wind, keep the wind in your face, whatever, yada, yada. John says he doesn't even worry about it. And I also need to ask him if he goes into a season with a hit list in mind, like all these TV hunters do, right? I got a hit list, and I named them all, and I got trail cam pictures of them, and I'm holding out for a mature buck. Well, we'll see if John's theory is a little different after the break here on Outdoor Magazine. You can hear the Outdoor Magazine show in Houghton Lake on the Twister 92.1 WTWS, and you can hear us in Holland on WHTC 1450 AM and 99.7 FM. This segment of Outdoor Magazine brought to you by Rapid River Knives, RapidRiverKnifeWorks.com. Listen, you've probably got a knife in your pocket right now. I do. It's a Rapid River knife made by Chris Durson and the crew up there. It's a folding knife, handmade, high quality, very sharp. A knife is a wonderful tool. Yeah, you're going to use it. Yes, those few times a year you might use it to gut a deer, to field dress a deer. And that's wonderful. That's fine. But realistically, you're probably going to fillet more fish than you are ever process or field dress a deer. And in my case, I honestly, literally reach for this knife several times a day, and I bet you do as well. So if you're going to carry a knife, if you're going to use a knife, they're a great tool. Why not make it a handmade piece of art that is also designed to be used? From Chris Durson and the folks at Rapid River Knife Works, RapidRiverKnifeWorks.com. And just a quick reminder, we're going to do a Wednesday night live on Wednesday, October 20th, from the Rapid River showroom in Rapid River in the UP. I'll be up there. Nick Grillo of Michigan Brand will be up there. Chris Durson of Rapid River. And we're going to give away a Rapid River knife. The way you can enter to win this is there's a post on Facebook right now from Michigan Brand. Like that post. Like Michigan, comment on that post, like Michigan Brand, like Rapid River, and like my Facebook page, and you will automatically be entered to win. And the showroom will be open that night. So if you want to stop by and say hi, we would love to see you. RapidRiverKnifeWorks.com. While you're online, check out the website, Eberhardt's Whitetail Workshop. That is the website of the Whitetail Whisperer himself, John Eberhart. John, as you go into a season, do you have a specific plan? Do you have bucks in mind? Do you have a hit list? Have you named these guys, or how do you prepare? How do you go into a season? Do you target specific bucks? I guess is the gist of my question.
That's an interesting question, because I typically do not run cameras in Michigan because they're kind of detrimental unless you're using a cell camera. So I typically don't have a hit list in Michigan. I have no clue what's at my locations. I set up during postseason. I re-prep and re-groom my old locations. I'll usually set up half a dozen new locations. Some are early season, some are rut phase locations, some are October lull locations, some are late season locations. But the majority of them are rut or early season locations. So all my early season locations are prepped at mast or fruit trees or at primary scrape areas that had been there the previous fall. So I will do a speed tour in my full scent lock after September 20th. This year I did them, I think, September 25th, of all of my early season locations at mast and fruit trees or at potential scrape areas. And I will hunt them according to what I actually see there as far as, okay, are the oaks producing acorns, red oaks and white oaks, or swamp bur oaks? Are the apple trees producing apples? Are the scrape areas from last year active? And if they are, any of those are dropping or the scrapes are active, then I will look at the buck sign at that location, because by the 25th of September, the mature bucks, they've been out of velvet for usually at least 3 weeks. So there's going to be some form of rubs around them, around these food-bearing trees, for me to judge if there's a mature buck. So I look for rubs that are, 3-4 foot high up the tree, maybe on small or bigger diameter trees, as opposed to 18-inch to 2.5-3 foot high rubs, which typically are done by a younger buck because they're small, they're shorter, and their antlers aren't as high off their heads. So mature bucks have taller antlers, and their antlers are up higher, so the rubs are up higher. So I judge everything on what I'm going to do the first 2 or 3 days of the season by the buck sign at the locations that typically would be dropping food that particular year. So I don't have a hit list. I'm hunting destination locations based on where those bucks should be, during the early part of the season, if they haven't been turned to nocturnal, which is typically the case where I hunt in Michigan, because everything I do is public and knock on doors, so other people are always there. But hopefully once in a blue moon you get an opportunity at an early season buck that has not turned nocturnal from all the other hunters' preseason scouting and location preparation and basically human intrusions. Because those deer have been left alone pretty much since the previous season, with maybe a tad bit of turkey hunting in April and May. So, all that sudden influx of human activity on scouting and prepping locations, a buck that's been through a deer season, gun and bow, he knows that human influx of activity is time for him to turn nocturnal.
You mentioned scent lock. We can't talk about your regimen without talking about scent control.
Correct. I pay zero attention to wind direction. I have since I started using scent lock in 1997. Saved up and bought some because it's not cheap. Although its prices now are pretty competitive with other garments, really, and scent lock actually has activated carbon in it. But anyway, I started using it in '97, and by the year 2000, late '99 actually, I had learned how to properly care for it, because I don't think the instructions that scent lock gives on their hang tags is adequate. It's relatively generic. You have to wear a head cover with drop-down face mask. You have to wear the gloves. You have to wear rubber boots. You have to wear the suit. And you have to take care of it properly. You have to store it properly. You have to use it properly. You have to have a scent-free backpack. The TV guys, they wear a jacket and a pant and a logo cap with their hair hanging out and beards and stupid face paint. And where they hunt, which is zoo-type settings, in my opinion, where there's so many mature bucks on these micromanaged for big buck farms, they can get away with huge gaps in their scent control because nobody's targeting those bucks until they're 3 or 4 years old. So, as 1.5 and 2.5 and sometimes 3.5-year-old antlered bucks, they're passing by hunters with no negative consequences. So obviously, if there's no negative consequences with human intrusions and human interactions, during season, they don't have a lot of reason to change their daytime movement patterns. So once they reach that kill age, they're relatively easy to kill because they move a lot during daylight hours. And there's so many big bucks on the properties, they're going to kill something because they're going to have multiple opportunities. But I pay zero attention to scent, and by 1999, I learned how to properly care for and use it and store it, and I pay no attention to wind anymore as far as me getting winded. I will pay attention to wind occasionally when I'm prepping a tree in a certain location, because a lot of times mature bucks in Michigan, they on midday movements, they'll a lot of times, like at a scrape area or something, they'll always they won't come into the physical scrapes. They'll scent check it from downwind. So I always try to set up, usually the wind's predominantly out of the northwest, so if there's a tree available, I'll set up like 20, 25 yards off the scrapes on what will be the downwind side. And that way, if I have a shooting lane to the scrapes and 20, 25 yards downwind of me, farther south than I am, if a deer comes in any place up to 45 or 50 yards on the downwind side to scent check that scrape area, I will have an opportunity. He doesn't have to come right into the scrapes because typically they don't during daylight.
You talk about putting something over your head. That's always driven me crazy because, I'm no expert, but I've always known that, well, before I shaved my head, that my hair was putting out scent. You're getting scent out of your mouth. I drink coffee on the way there, smoke a cigar, earlier today or whatever. I mean, if you don't take care of that, you're not taking care of the whole problem.
Yeah, you have to wear the head cover. 40% of your odor comes out of your ears, nose, and mouth, and your hair follicles. You get up in the morning, you take a shower, and by the time you go to bed, your hair is all oily, and that's just a breeding grounds for bacteria. Same with a beard. So you have to wear the head cover with the drop-down face mask, which actually goes over your mouth and nose while you're hunting. And they make them in different weights. They make them really thin. The Savannah one's really thin, and then they make a midweight and a heavyweight. So you use them according to the weather and the season. And then when you get ready to take a shot, you just reach up and pull it down underneath your chin so that face mask doesn't impede your anchor point.
Well, we're going to do a little, continue our commercial for ScentLock, I guess, which I don't have a problem with. They're a great Michigan company. How do you take care of ScentLock then? How do you get the most out of it? And does it ever wear out? Do you have to replace it eventually?
Yeah, it's got about an 8 to 10 year lifespan with proper use and storage and care, and that's for a guy that's using one suit. So most guys that are using ScentLock, they have a lightweight suit for early season and a midweight that they can layer underneath it as it gets colder. But it's about 8 to 10 years with average use. And when I say average, that's during a 3-month season, a guy that's hunting every Friday, Saturday, and Sunday, if properly cared for. But 8 to 10 years is a pretty long time, and that's with one suit. So if you're using an early season and a midweight suit, and you're using them equally throughout the season, you're going to get 16 to 20 years out of the two suits.
Oh, then what is the proper care? How do you make sure that you're not contaminating these things, or you think you're walking out there scent free and you smell like a garbage bin to a whitetail?
Yeah, absolutely. The care and storage is very important. To regenerate or deabsorb the activated carbon, you have to put it in a dryer at the highest heat setting the dryer has, which is usually about 155 degrees, for about 40 minutes. And what that does is that the heat actually energizes the molecules that are bonded to the carbon, your human odor molecules or whatever other molecules are in there. The heat energizes those, and they start moving more rapidly, and they break free, and a good percentage of them exit out the dryer. It's the same exact molecular procedure that you'd see, on the concrete highways. There's expansion joints around the Mackinac Bridge with the expansion. It's got 12-foot expansion joints every so far. So on 80, 90 degree sunny days, the heat from the sun energizes the molecules in the steel or in the concrete highways, and they energize and they move more rapidly and they expand. And if you didn't have expansion joints, the concrete would buckle and the steel would bend in the Mackinac Bridge, or steel structure buildings like the Twin Towers. They had steel and they had expansion joints going up the sides.
John, listen, I got to take a break. I'd like to offer you the coveted third segment. Can you stick around?
Absolutely.
All right. We're talking with John Eberhart, the Whitetail Whisperer, the website, eberhartswhitetailworkshop.com. After the break, when we come back, I am going to make a prediction on the exact day that John will kill a nice buck. Coming up right here on Outdoor Magazine. You can hear the Outdoor Magazine show all across the great state of Michigan. In West Michigan, on the coastline, you can hear us in Ludington on News 97, 98, 98.7 WLDN. And just up the coast, in Manistee on WMLQ 97.7 FM. This segment of Outdoor Magazine is brought to you by Wilds Plumbing and Heating. Plumbing, heating, air conditioning, ductwork cleaning, cooling, sump pumps, whatever it is, to keep your house running smoothly, reliably, to keep you comfortable. Their motto, their slogan is whatever it takes. I love to work with a company that says whatever it takes. Listen, you are the customer, whatever it takes to make you happy and to do a good job for you. The folks at Wilds will approach your job from that frame of mind. Check them out online at wildsplumbingandheating.com. That's wildsplumbingandheating.com. And if somebody from Wilds comes to the house, don't be surprised if you get involved in a hunting or fishing conversation, because a lot of the guys are hardcore outdoor enthusiasts as well. We're talking now, wrapping up our conversation with the man himself, the Whitetail Whisperer, John Eberhart. The website, eberhartswhitetailworkshop.com, eberhartswhitetailworkshop.com. John, one follow-up question to the previous segment. Talking about scent lock and that you recharge it in the dryer, do you have to wash it too, or can you just get by with throwing it in the dryer and doing it that way?
God, I'm glad you asked that. No, you should not wash it. If you wash a suit very many times, it breaks down the glue that's bonding the two fabrics over top of the liner of activated carbon. So it breaks that down, and then the carbon will move around. So no, you don't wash it. You just deabsorb it in the dryer. It's all you need to do. Unless it has physical dirt on it, then just wash it with no soap and on cold water, and then dry it.
Ah, perfect. Yeah, I'm glad I brought it up, too, because I think a lot of people are washing these suits when they don't have to.
Yeah, and that will ruin it, without a doubt.
Yeah.
Hey, by the way, I forgot to mention, you mentioned hit list, and I said I had 7 cameras out this year in Michigan. I got a ton of bucks on them, some on public, some on private, and not one shooter. Not one. I got one that's maybe 120. He's borderline.
Well,
it's weird because I'll go out of state and I'll see 10 or 18 Pauvignons in a week.
Remember a few years ago when I made a prediction that you were going to kill a buck on a given day?
Yes, I do, and I did.
And it came true, didn't it?
It did. It was October 19th.
I don't know. See, October 19th is kind of early, too. I don't know what made me think of that day.
I never thought about your prediction. It was, I think it was in 2017, if I'm not mistaken. And it was a day where I didn't have to work, and it was cool, and I just decided, what the hell, I'll go on. And it just so happens I did. And then when you mentioned it on our next talk, I was like, God, I killed a deer that day. So you were dead on.
Here's my prediction this year. And this is a number that just popped into my head. I didn't look right now until even see what day of the week it is. It's a Wednesday, actually, which may hurt my cause. But November 3rd, you're going to kill a big buck. November
3rd. I like that. That's a better date, October 19th. It's really a bad day. I usually don't hunt a lot in mid-October. Wow. Hey, Mike, I got to mention a couple of things on, costs of everything are going up, and this has nothing to do with hunting, although I guess it does. And I rep for, like, Coleman and Rhino Blinds and Rivers West, several companies that import stuff from offshore. And our freight charges in this country is coming out of China or Vietnam or whatever. A container coming out of those countries in mid-January was $2,300. Like Coleman, for instance, $2,300 for a container to come in. It's $25,000.
Oh,
$25,000 for a container coming out of China or some of those Asian countries where it was $2,300 just before the new administration took over. And prices are going up. Poly resins are through the roof. Costs are going to go up, and inflation is going to be terrible going forward. But it has nothing to do with hunting. But I just
hunting products, hunting related gear.
Most hunting clothing come from offshore. Absolutely, most hunting gear does. You're absolutely
in the minute and a half we got left, let me follow up on this.
Yeah.
A lot of these products that we use in the outdoors are made overseas. We would just as soon, John, buy products that were made in Michigan, or at least in the States. That's becoming increasingly hard, though, isn't it?
Well, this may change things. If these freight charges stay the way they are, I think it's by accident going to bring more manufacturing back. So, but yeah, you're right. We would much rather have it made in the USA without.
But these days, I guess my point is, these days, as much as we try, it's almost impossible, I think, to get every bit of our hunting and fishing gear made here in this country.
Oh, without a doubt. Textiles, back when I started repping in 1992, all the companies I sold clothing for, Mossy Oak, Rivers West, everything was manufactured in the States, and now nothing. All the textile companies, for the most part, they're just gone.
Yeah.
It's sad, but that's just the reality.
John, always a pleasure. Now, remember, Wednesday, November 3rd, I'm hoping you will be in the stand from before it gets light until after dark to increase my odds of being right again.
Okay, I will make a note on the calendar. And
even if a buck walks by where he's marginal, go ahead and shoot him to make sure my prediction is good.
Shoot a three-pointer or something, right?
Avery said I had to shoot this buck.
Hey, you're 100%.
All right, John, have a good season. We'll talk again.
Thank you, Mike. You too. And everybody else out there, have a good season.
John Eberhart, the Whitetail Whisperer himself, Eberhart'sWhitetailWorkshop.com. Man, did I just put some pressure on, well, not just on me. No, I put pressure on John. Wednesday, November 3rd. More coming up after the break. In fact, we'll wrap it up here on Outdoor Magazine. Welcome back to Outdoor Magazine. You can hear us in Saginaw on WSGW AM and FM, 790 AM, 100.5 FM. I'm in the studios of WSGW right now, here with Pat Johnston, doing a wonderful job. As always, Pat, I do certainly appreciate it. Just a quick follow-up to our conversation, my conversation with Johnny Eberhart. He just sent me a text. He says, Mike, please throw out this email address, Dear John, and Dear is D-E-E-R, dearjohn51@gmail.com, dearjohn51@gmail.com. If you would like John to send you that documentation on his scent control regimen. He's a big scent lock fan, but there's a very specific way he uses this and takes care of that scent lock. Dear John, D-E-E-R, dearjohn51@gmail.com. You know, I feel pretty blessed this week. When I look at the rundown, you know, the experts, I mean, going back to Jeff Godi in our first hour, Captain Jeff Godi, walleye fishing expert and also a waterfowl hunting guide on Saginaw Bay. And then Greg Abbas of A-Way Outdoors, the guy who came up with the Bowgrunner Plus deer call and innovator in so many things as far as deer hunting, and now invention consultant. To help people bring their outdoor-related products to market. And, of course, the Whitetail Whisperer himself, Dear John, John Eberhart. Does hanging with experts and talking with experts and the best rub off? I wish it did, but it doesn't. I learn a lot from these conversations with folks that I have on the show. And you know what? I hope you learn from them as well. That's one of the advantages of being around for a while. I know people. I got people. I got people who know things. And when I want to find something out or talk on a specific topic, I usually know where to go. And that's one thing that wasn't necessarily there in the younger part of my career. I had to build up these contacts. I had to build up these relationships. I had to build up this, using an old-fashioned term, Rolodex. Do you know what a Rolodex is? I'll tell you. It was names, contact information, phone numbers, and addresses that was printed out on 3x5 cards and put in a little device that made them flip around. That was a Rolodex. These days, we got it all on our phone, right? Things have changed. You know, some things have changed. A lot of things have changed. But what hasn't changed is our basic love and passion for this outdoor experience. Our need to get away from things and reconnect with the natural world. Our need to get away from the shop, away from the office, away from the classroom, away from the whatever it is that is our daily grind, and get out into something, an environment and a situation, an experience that we have no control over. And to me, that is the key right there. Going from our day-to-day world where we press a button, we hit a key on a screen or whatever, and we get immediate gratification. When you get outdoors, when you get on the water, when you get into the woods, Mother Nature doesn't give a rip about you. She doesn't care how important you are in your day-to-day job. And she may or may not choose to throw you a bone. She may or may not choose to cooperate with you. And that's the cool part. We can't control the weather. We can't control the rain. We can't control the temperature. We can't control the wind speed, the wind direction. We can't control whether a fish is going to bite our lure. We can't control whether a buck is going to walk in front of us. Now, we can do certain things to try to move the odds a little bit more in our favor, but ultimately we don't have any say in that experience, and I think that is the true joy of our outdoor pursuits, our passions, our addictions. Just a quick reminder, too, if we're doing some time shifting. We're in the studio early this week because I'm going to be heading down to Ohio. Haven't bow hunted down in Ohio in 14, 15 years. We got a group of people who listen to the Outdoor Magazine radio show have gotten together. We're going to go down and bow hunt with my buddy Bill Piles of Ohio Bow Hunting Adventures. The reason I'm bringing it up is if something big happens in the outdoor news from the time I'm recording this show right now until it airs, I don't know about it yet. So if, God forbid, there was some huge disease outbreak or if there was a new state record walleye or something caught, and I haven't talked about it, it's because I don't know about it yet. That's one of the downsides, one of the disadvantages of recording early. But I'm very thankful that we have the ability to do some time shifting here to allow me to take off on such things. Pat Johnson, I appreciate it. Charlie Root, I appreciate you guys' flexibility in helping to make things happen. It seems like it was just a couple of weeks ago I was up in Ontario on a bear hunt, and that's been 2 months now. So we'll head down to Ohio. I'm looking forward to that, looking forward to seeing Bill and Joan and the whole crew down there and getting a chance to see what's down there. I haven't been down there in a while, and it's a lot of fun. I'm looking forward to it. My website, MikeAveryOutdoors.com. My email address, Mike@MikeAveryOutdoors.com. Do not hesitate to reach out to me. Questions, comments, pictures, stories, send them to me. I love to see them. Love to hear what you're doing as you enjoy your outdoor pursuits, your outdoor passions. All right, my friends, have a great week, and we'll talk to you next time right here on Outdoor Magazine.